Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Deal. I'm Jason Kelly alongside my partner, Alex Rodriguez. Alex, coming up in just a minute, our interview with Keith Dawkins. He's the president of the Harlem Globetrotters. And Alex, Keith has a fascinating background. He was a top media executive at Nickelodeon. He did a lot of sports deals there. He worked at First Tee. And now this iconic brand he's got his hands on and huge, huge ambitions. But before we get to that, I mean, talk about FOMO, dude. Like watching what unfurled at the Olympics in basketball. Tell me what it was like having seen the run up to it. Double gold for Team USA, women's and men's. You had very much a vested interest in both sides of this. What are your thoughts?
It was great to see so much talent in one building. It was great to see Adam Silver there. Other owners were there. But to see this much talent assembled, both in the men and the women, not just the US, but all over the globe, it was really a celebration of basketball, a celebration of the NBA, and celebration of sports. It was absolutely awesome. And the last thing I would say, but it was weird. Me cheering for LeBron James and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. I mean, Steve Kerr did an incredible job and his whole coaching staff getting this team to win because guess what? They have nothing to win, everything to lose. And I saw, right? Steph Curry say, this was a relief. Yes, it was. We put him to sleep. But it was a lot of it was a big relief for the U.S.
And so put on your business hat for me for a second. You know, I was watching it and thinking, this has got to be good for both the NBA and the WNBA. I mean, we're seeing these players in a different light. We're seeing rivalries in a very different way. You know, to your point, like rivals coming together on the same team. But I mean, the men's final, you had two wolves going against each other, didn't you?
It was so great. It was Rudy Gobert playing for France and the home court France. And boy, was that crowd impressive and loud. It was like as loud as Madison Square Garden in the postseason. It was really impressive and passionate. And then, of course, you know, Anthony Edwards. And it was so great seeing both those guys play. But the other winner there, Jason, was NBC, Comcast, Peacock. What else is good for business is we had, you know, at the peak, almost 23 million people watching on a Saturday afternoon. The numbers were bonkers, great for business. And look, NBC stepped up. They're paying an enormous number. Guess what? It's good after you pay for a nice new toy to have this payoff of like a little bit of an appetizer of what the NBA could be for them all over again.
All right. So having seen it, and I'm sure that, you know, you're going to have these conversations over the next couple of years. What's your advice to LA? I mean, this was like magical for Paris. I mean, it's an amazing city. LA, you know, in our lifetimes, in modern times, the 1984 Olympics were unbelievably successful. They really sort of brought the Olympics back. Feels like Paris really brought the Olympics back. What do you think LA needs to do? Like, again, like put on your business and sports hat, you know, someone who understands spectacle. What do you think they should do?
I think, look, Paris, like LA, is one of the great cities around the world, right? And when you look at, you know, the state of California has got like the 5th largest economy in the world. So it's in many ways comparable to a Paris. Paris has the most beautiful canvas anchored by the Eiffel Tower. It's just a beautiful city. The shopping, the entertainment, I mean, it's just phenomenal. The one note I would say, Jason, is I was there with friends, I was there with family, and Jason, we've never felt safer. I'm talking about every intersection. You had these incredible young men and women who were law and order. I saw a lot of cheering. I saw a lot of patriotism from everywhere, but it was done in a respectful manner. I would say that's one, because when you don't have safety for families, I think it makes it very hard to enjoy any event. Paris did it beautifully. They were hospitable. So all is good, but LA has a tough act to follow.
Yeah, be interesting to see what happens. And I have to say, just as a sort of like final note on the Olympics, when we got to, I guess it was Monday evening, my 6-year-old was like, wait, the Olympics aren't on? What about the diving and the running and the basketball? I mean, because it had become such a staple over those 2 weeks of all these exciting things. And it reminds you, sports are awesome. It's just so much fun.
We have so many things, Jason, that are dividing us right now. And this is a one thing, sports and music that brings us together in the most beautiful way. I was spending some time with Del Curry, Steph's father. He was there with his wife, and just watching him, the generations, thinking about the 92 team with Jordan and Barkley and Bird and Magic. It was really special.
All right. So coming up, we're going to talk with Keith Dawkins, the Harlem Globetrotters. I want to ask you before we get into the conversation with him, were the Globetrotters something you watched growing up? Because I have some very distinct memories of watching them on TV, Sweet Lou Dunbar, the whole thing. Talk about sort of patriotism and Americana. They've been around for a long time.
Look, I was a huge fan growing up. And then the weekends, remember, we only had 4 or 5 channels.
Right.
And
at best,
right? When Globetrotters came on, it was a big deal. It was a must-watch TV at home with the family, order pizza and kind of sit around. I am surprised that the NBA doesn't own them, or one of these big leagues takes them on, or perhaps someone like Disney doesn't own them because it's so family-oriented. I don't know. I'm super excited to talk to Keith. I'm excited to see he's got an incredible background and to really unpack how he thinks about a brand that's been around for almost 100 years. I'm psyched up for this one.
Coming up, Keith Dawkins, the president of the Harlem Globetrotters. All right, here we go. Really psyched to have with us Keith Dawkins. He is the president of the Harlem Globetrotters. He's all decked out. He's ready to rock. Keith, welcome to the show. First of all, let's talk about the Globetrotters, because when you think about iconic American brands, this is a brand that's been around for almost 100 years. When you were first approached about this job, what was your relationship with the Globetrotters?
First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate anytime someone wants, me to come on and talk about the Globetrotters. I appreciate that tremendously. It was an awesome fall day. I was kind of minding my own business, and this recruiter reached out, and we talked for a bit, and then she kind of presented the idea of the Harlem Globetrotters. I had visibility into the brand from the standpoint of I knew some former leadership there from my past Nickelodeon life. But really what kind of moved me was, the 8-year-old in me who grew up on the Globetrotters, of the many things that on the list of things that we grew up on. You have these moments, and all of us have these moments in our careers where you're like, really? The Harlem Globetrotters? This thing when the world was simpler and it was no internet. We're old enough, right? No internet, no YouTube, no nothing, right? A handful of channels to watch. And there was Meadowlark, and there was Curly Neal, and there was just excellence on the screen. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, I got to chase this down. She was like, wait, but you're so busy with so many other things. I'm like, listen, these opportunities only come around to you a handful of times or never. And so it was really the 8-year-old in me kind of was responding to it initially. But then it's also like, oh, wait, I have this media entertainment career, and I have this point of view on what I think this thing can be and should be and where it could go. If they'll have me, we're going to get after it. And here we are.
So then, Keith, the 8-year-old you then comes together with the experienced media executive you. And so what does he think when he thinks about the possibility? Because I got to say, I hadn't thought about the Globetrotters in quite some time, which may be part of the problem. So what did you discover there?
Yeah, so I looked at it as, and this is the conversation I was having with my boss now, right, when they were interviewing me for this process. I said, listen, whether it's me or somebody else, I hope you're thinking about a few things. I go, one, you have this 100-year anniversary coming up, right? And in 2026, we'll be 100 years old. I go, I hope someone's playing against that now. I go, two, I'm not trying to call the baby ugly. I go, but you have, I believe, and I still believe this, multiple generations, probably 2, maybe 3, that you've missed along the way because the Globetrotters were operating as a tour only. The only way that you would touch and feel and connect with the brand was to show up at one of its 250 tour stops around North America, another 150 tour stops around the rest of planet Earth. And as the world was evolving, content creation, licensing and consumer products, digital social media, the list goes on, the Globetrotters were in any of those spaces. So if you just use my house as an example, I have a 23-year-old and a soon-to-be 20-year-old. It's like we are sports playing, content consuming, media entertainment executive, like every device is here in the house. And it's like the Globetrotters didn't exist. And so for me, it's you have to have a sense of urgency around. There is some 45 to 55-year-old decision maker at fill-in-the-blank company on planet Earth who has an affinity for the brand, That's a potential deal memo to be done with them around any of those categories, I would say. But if you wait another 20 to 30 years for the generation that you missed, I go, this brand that I love and we love could be like dead on arrival already. So that's the sense of urgency I have around it. It's like, one, how do we kind of jumpstart this almost 100-year-old startup and create some activity around it down, not think of ourselves as only a tour. We're not a tour. We're a beloved global intellectual property, and we should be swimming down all the pathways where the audience resides, this big, giant, addressable audience, right? And thinking about those audience through research and data, and, we have the kids and parenthetically families, right? So that's the one you can monetize today and tomorrow. By that, I mean they could show up at one of our tour stops as an 8-year-old, fall in love with the brand, right? You're monetizing today, but you're also creating the next generation of fan for tomorrow. That 18 to 34-year-old, my overly used example of them is like, I'll be at the gym working out and someone has like a Death Row Records shirt on. I'm like, what do you know about Suge Knight? Or what do you know about, you see this with kids, right? They have Nirvana swag on. They have different things that they didn't grow up with, right? But that's an affinity, right? We should be connected with them. And then to our crowd, or my crowd, I'll just say, I'll age myself. It was like, there's a doc series on Netflix, on Amazon, around Michael Jackson, around the Beatles, around whoever it is, right? Where's the Globetrotters content, right? So if you start hitting on all of those cylinders and all of those audiences, right, the rising tide raises all boats, and then we're relevant for not only today, but for another 100 years.
Keith, I love where you're going with that. And Jason and I spent a lot of time talking about sports like boxing and baseball that have lost their ways a little bit, but they should be coming back because long-term, they have this incredible brand, just like yours. Now, on the business side of this, bring us a little bit to the Hersen Group, the holding company that brought you in. Talk to us a little about what was their pitch to you when you think about enterprise, when you think about scale, when you think about revenues. How do they think about it compared to how you thought about it? And what finally made you guys together? And what can it be in 5 years, in your opinion?
So great question. I'll go back probably a step before that. There was a private equity company, Shamrock, who used to own the Globetrotters. And then in 2013, Herschend acquired the Globetrotters, and they owned Silver Dollar City, Dollywood, aquariums and theme parks all over the country. And that's the core of their business. So in acquiring Globetrotters, they thought, okay, we know this business of sell you a ticket at an average ticket price, bring you into an area, sell you merchandise, and that makes sense. All those destinations are also family destinations. Globetrotters is a family idea. That makes sense. But then it's like, well, wait a minute, Globetrotters is more than that as an idea. And that was probably the struggle of some of the past Globetrotters. How do we make this more than just come in, buy a ticket, right? And then again, COVID was probably the best and the worst thing that happened for the organization because it really shined the spotlight of that is a vulnerable position to have our business solely about live event only. And this thing happened out of nowhere and shut the entire business down. Now, the beauty of the alignment to Herschend, though, is if you work there at its core, their whole thing is about bringing families together and creating memories worth repeating, right? And they talk about love as loving our guests and loving our employees and loving our customers. So there's like a moral, soulful compass that's part of the Herschend family. The reason why that's important is because that's like the essence of the Globetrotters, right? So I haven't run into anyone yet who's like, Harlem Globetrotters, they make me feel terrible about life. It's either Harlem Globetrotters, I love them, they get into their stories, or Harlem Globetrotters, I haven't heard about them in a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the opportunity. People come to a Globetrotters game and they're rooting. There's no booing of referees. There's no bad behavior. It brings everyone. So that alignment to the parent company then aligns around the vision of how do we scale this out now? There was a vulnerability in that way, and we're doing this model. So how do we think about content distribution? How do we think about, and that we were able to bring them back on TV for the first time in 40 years, right? How do we think about a residency? We have this residency in American Dream. How do we think about live broadcast? And on the 18th, we're going to do a live broadcast for the first time in 40 years. How do we think about our consumer products and our licensing? There's no retail presence for the Globetrotters historically, right? Oh, but now we're in Zara and we've been in Lids and now we signed with IMG as a global retail partner. So there was no interference on the parent company around. Everyone believed we have this germ of an awesome thing. It's weird to call it a germ because it's 98 years old, right? But it's how do we scale this and bring it out to the mass?
So tell us about this residency, because that's also a new thing. Yeah. And I mean, if you live in the New York area, you've driven by American Dream and its various iterations. Tell us about making that deal, how it came about, and sort of what the contours of it are.
Yeah, I love when these type of deals happen. It's not dissimilar from our relationship with Hearst for the show that we did. And what I mean by that is I'm literally sitting in my house on a Wednesday. NBA TV is on. I'm watching this high school national championship game called The Throne, and it was being held in American Dream. And I'm like, that's interesting. Through their relationship with NBPA, and then person on the team, on our team, was there. He's texting me. He's like, hey, you're watching? I'm like, I am watching this. He goes, I'm talking to the ownership group, and they want to meet with you. Can you come tomorrow? I was like, I can't come tomorrow, but I'll come Friday. So I go down there 2 days later after this thing, and again, like-minded partners. They're like, we are not a mall. We are a family destination that brings people together for live events. They have big aspirations for that. Retail, dining, all types of things. They go, I'm familiar with you from my Nickelodeon days. We shot stuff in Mall of America. They're the ownership group. We shot a show with Nick Cannon in there. So I'm like, I get it. And I'm like, you know what? We've talked a lot about a residency. I see that court that you guys have in there. Well, what if you just hunker down in here for, let's say, 10 days? And they're like, what would that look like? We could do some doubleheader games. We could do some single games. We could do skills clinics. We could bring merchandise in. We could do a pop-up shop. We could do a pop-up shop. And we just talked this out, walking the mall. And they showed me a thing. I'm like, okay, I got it. Let's think about this. So it was like a conversation where we were structuring out the basic underpinnings of what the deal, really what the offering to the consumer would look like. The deal kind of wraps around that. And this was in March or April, May, right? And we were off to the races.
Of this year?
Oh, yeah, man. This was text on a Wednesday, conversation on a Friday, meeting in the spring, outline that up. I was like, I'll get back. You guys want to throw paper over to us? You want to throw paper over to you? They're like, we'll flip it over to you. They flipped the deal member over to us. And I was like, okay. We were back and forth around that because that's where all the war is, right? But if people are aligned, do you want me to call you A-Rod or Alex? Alex, I'll call you Alex.
Yeah, Alex, fine.
Right? I mean, you've been through this at a higher level in your career, right? Like, we're aligned. Oh, yeah, we want you here with the Yankees. We want you here with Seattle. We want you wherever. Mm-hmm. That's the alignment. The dog fight's on the in-between, right? On what the contractual stuff is. But that's just part of the healthy thing. And there was no animosity with that, right? And then we got there. And unbeknownst to me, I wasn't even thinking about this at the time. Like, when we started really digging through, it's like, oh, my gosh, wait, this isn't just a residency. It's no sports team has ever done a residency.
Right.
Hard to have a first in a globe. I'm like, wait, now we're on to something different. And then seeing the outreach of press and people who want to talk about this, right? And that's really exciting.
Yeah. And Keith, I love this because I can see you guys being in Las Vegas with a residency, and I would love to watch you with my daughters, right? But, it's funny when you think about, you have something that is so unique is brand recognition, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, I play for the New York Yankees, one of the most recognizable sports brands around the globe. But when I think about Globetrotters, I immediately think about Disney. When you think about what F1 did with Netflix, is there an opportunity to do something behind the scenes, a documentary of some sort?
Absolutely. Well, you're making me smile because you bring up a few things. So to the last thing you just said, yes, we have a development slate now of 25 to 35 projects related to Globetrotters, by the way, and some generals on there. And they run the gamut from short form, long form, docs, animated series. They're every content type for every category. Because that's important, right? We're having conversations with streamers or with the kid-facing services and that big addressable audience. So yes, there's an opportunity, and we're actively out there in conversation pitches. Some of the stuff has been public. Again, the show with Hearst, that's public. We struck a deal with Imagine Entertainment for a docuseries, that's public. We have a show called Secrets of the City that we're bringing to Aspire TV. That's all about, the Globetrotters when they're traveling around the globe. What is that like for them? How do they show up at those places? How do they learn language? How do they eat food? How do they shop, right? So again, the amount of storytelling that's both legacy type stuff and very current work is right for the pickings there for us. And so we have a development slate that goes with that. The thing you had me smiling about is, there are a handful of franchises, even if you're a fan of those sports or not, or even beyond sports, Yankees, Cowboys, Manchester United, F1, right? And I'd like them, the Globetrotters kind of sit on that set just of brand awareness and recognition. And we see it when we show up around the globe in various forms, right? And also because of basketball. That sport, I'd like to think we contributed to that, but the globalization of that sport, you see it in the Olympics. There was a time that the U.S. would just roll out the ball. It's like, we are beating all of you by 40. And now every team has NBA players on it. Canada, France, Serbia, the list goes on, right? The gender neutrality, to the point of your daughters, boys and girls can play the sport, right? That's the beauty of baseball as well, baseball and softball. Yeah. So that allows everyone under the tent It allows us to really be thoughtful then about how we're rolling this product out around the globe. We just announced an Asia tour that will be in November, and we're excited about that. It's with the same partners that we do our Australia and New Zealand tour with. And Australia, we're there every other year. As fast as we go on sale is as fast as we sold out. We break a record every other year that we're there. Basketball being played in Asia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Japan will be a part of that mix. We're really excited, not just about the touring component, but when you think about some of those countries, think about Japan in particular, think about what we start to do with licensing and merchandise and content creation and various things. It's really exciting time, I think, for the Globetrotters.
You mentioned the players, and it was fun for me to, doing some research on this, like looking at the various players. Obviously, you have some legacy players who are involved in management and ambassador type stuff. I have sort of a dumb question, except I think a lot of people might have this question. Yep. How do you become a Globetrotter? like how does that happen?
Well, I have an answer to that, and then I thought you were going to go to a different place that I'll go to as well. So listen, we have tryouts that happen in the fall, just like any other organization would kind of have tryouts. We have recruiters that are all over the globe seeking out talent. So all the places that the NBA and G League and all throughout Europe and South America, we have the fingers on the pulse of all of those players and talent. Now, I do think part of the problem, or I'll phrase it as an opportunity, and I'm going to use a player that we signed last year, Alexis Morris, as an example of this. So Alexis Morris was on LSU's national championship team 2 years ago, second round pick for the WNBA draft. There's only 144 slots there. So a lot of those second round picks just do not make. By the way, she was the leading scorer in the national championship team. A lot, right? Last 30 years, a player of that caliber is not thinking about the Harlem Globetrotters as one of the things on her list, right? I do think, again, the unintended consequences. I think the Brittany Griner moment helped a lot of different organizations out. It's let me rethink Europe. Do I want to travel that far? For what? What other possibilities is that, right? And so I just want people, the Globetrotters, men and women, I want them to be on their list of, listen, we can compensate you like you can be compensated in the WNBA or the G League. By the way, we're also going to open up some other opportunities for you. You could be in our show on NBC, Harlem Globetrotters Play It Forward. Oh, let's talk about the licensing deals that we're doing through IMG. You can be a part of that. It's like, wait, and when those players start to go, wait a minute, maybe this is interesting now. I'm 23 years old. I want to travel the globe. I want to see the world. I want to be exposed to different cultures and languages, right? I want to have PR opportunities and content opportunities and digital social opportunities, amplify my brand that way, being part of this legendary thing, the Harlem Globetrotters. So part of this work that we're doing to amplify and scale the brand should also be about attracting new talent into the organization right through our tryout and recruitment process. And where I thought you were going to go is there was a time in which when people were like, they knew who our stars were, our Meadowlarks, our Curly Neals, our Lynette Wooders, our Sweet Lou Dunbars. Now they're like, who are your stars?
Yeah.
And listen, at the end of the day, the beauty of the Yankees, as an example, is those stripes are the stars. But they also have stars in the stars. But the Yankees had that logo, the stripes are stars, right? So right now we might be akin to that, where this is a star. But boy, when you can marry the two and start to have your Bernie Williams, your Jeters, your Alex Rodriguez, the list goes on right to those stars, then brands are with winning, with excellence. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not winning national championships, but can we align our stars to the magnitude of the brand, amplify the excellence, and to the point of Alex, and that's something to scale.
Keith, as you're speaking, I'm kind of thinking, because it's such an exciting opportunity with your set of skills coming from media and to where the world, it's coming right into your circle of competence. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about marrying the two, I'm wondering, Jason and I have a friend, Masai, who's the CEO of Toronto Raptors.
Yep.
And he's doing incredible work with Africa. And Adam Silver's a big supporter. Barack Obama's a big supporter. So is Michelle. My question is, I'm wondering is there a potential partnership with you and the NBA that when we do stuff in Africa or even Asia, could you guys go right before, we play, right? For example, we played out in the Middle East. We played at the Dallas Mavericks. Why not put the Globetrotters right in front of the NBA game? And again, it benefits both sides. But I just see an incredible opportunity with your brand, especially India, Africa, places like that as well.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly that, what I love about the Naismith Hall of Fame is that it celebrates your overall contribution to the game of basketball. I'd say you have a high school coach in there, you have international coaches, you have everyone kind of in there, right? Versus, listen, I love the NFL in Canada, I'm saying that's very specific. I bring that up to say, from the days of, most high profile, maybe Dikembe Mutombo, to players like Yinka Dare and others who were coming out of the African continent when I was in the 80s. And you were seeing this growth of this idea, right? To think about strategically partnering in a way that us, the NBA, G League, WNBA, this is all about growth of the game and opportunities for people, right? In different parts of the country. Not all those folks will be NBA players or Globetrotters, whatever. But think about what you've done for education. Think what you've done for grassroots. Think what you've done for very CSR initiatives, right? Education, health and wellness, community empowerment are our pillars, right? And think about how powerful that could be for us to come together around some very specific assignments, right? That are shared work, right? So yes, I think that's a phenomenal opportunity. We could set up some tour stops, partner around clinic work, think about how to bring sponsors in it. How do we leave merchandise and stuff behind for kids who are like, wait, I want to grow this game just like any other sport, but I didn't have a ball. There's all types of things we can do where we can bring our selfless goals together while still having our selfish goals benefit from it. So I'm all in on that. And by the way, if you guys want to help me kind of have some conversations around it, we brought a few up.
It's my favorite thing. Deals happening on the deal. This is the dream. So Keith, I do want to ask you about your pre-Globetrotters career and how that sort of informs you in this job. I mean, Alex and I were talking about this before we got on with you. And I mean, honestly, if you're casting this job, obviously I can understand why the recruiter called you and why you got this job, because, looking at even what your portfolio was at Viacom and specifically at Nickelodeon and, and those sports partnerships that you oversaw there, can you tell us like one thing or a couple things that you did or saw in your Viacom Nickelodeon days that you're like, oh, okay, well, this is an easy like one-to-one, or I know how to do this and now I'm doing it at the Globetrotters?
Yeah, I think in no particular order, it's like everything from my entire media entertainment life, but we'll just be hyper-focused on that Viacom run, right, with Nickelodeon. We're talking about the audience 24/7. It's consumer, the audience, right? Everything is about content and how do we market to and ratings and research around. So everything's about the consumer. And so I'm a big believer, if you stop, we can get into minutia around conversations inside the buildings. And if you're not talking about that audience, you're going to lose them. If you don't know who they are, if you don't have sight of them. So one, that's a big part of trainings. I'm thinking about that. Two, competitive sets. Sometimes we get narrow on what we think of as a competitive set, right? We're at MLB, where we talk about like what NASCAR or whatever was doing. And I'm like, listen, a family of four making whatever they're making, $58,000 a year, are making choices. Am I getting that new streaming service because so-and-so's a baseball fan in the house? I got Apple. Well, wait a minute. So-and-so's my kid's birthday. They want the new Xbox. Hold on a second. So-and-so's about to go to college, or we got to buy formula. That's your competitive set, everything. So how are you cutting through all that clutter and all that noise to even get on their list of the choices of things they're going to do? Three, I am not a dismisser of like any new thing that comes around. Like, oh, that's just trash, that YouTube. Everything to me is like, wait, what is that over there? You dismiss it today, it's eating your lunch tomorrow. Who's that new rookie who just got into? I'm an 8-year vet. You're going to be sitting on that bench in a year or losing your job or move to a different position. So understanding audience, everyone's in my competitive set. And then with that, this was the Nickelodeon thing, and this is probably like the Yankees, whatever. There's a bar that's there that's like, we're Nickelodeon and we are here to be number one all the time.
Yeah.
They're not that anymore. But while that's a pressure cooker idea, I love that idea of like, oh, that's what we're here to do? Yes, that's what we're here to do. Are you on board with that? Well, at the time, I was too young and too dumb to know that I wouldn't be on board with that. But I like that as an idea, right? Just like setting a high standard. And I enjoy being in those environments. So for me, kind of coming to the organization, I'm like, we're the Harlem Globetrotters. And this is what I think the bar should be for us. This is what it was back in the day when people said they loved it. They're like, we saw you on TV. We were on a Scooby-Doo lunchbox. You were on Wild World of Sports. You made me feel a certain way. I never even saw you on tour, but Better Luck Lemon was a star, and it's awesome. How do we get back to that? Well, these are the things that we need to do, and it's not going to be easy getting there, right? But that's setting a new bar and setting a new vision for that, and then we're going to chase it. But what's our audience? Oh, we don't know anything about the audience. Okay, we're going to get smart about them, right? Who's our competitive set? I hadn't even thought about that question. Okay, we need to get smart about that. At the end of the day, then, it's about people and process, though. We're going to win a World Series. Do you have the people in the clubhouse to do that? Oh, we don't. Or we do. Or we do. And how do we nurture it, right? So people and process make this whole thing happen. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And storytelling. I mean, that's part of your consumer content, storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are we still talking about Babe Ruth 1,000 years later, right?
Right.
Because there was something magical about that dude. Not just his performance and his bar, and we're still chasing his records. But then it becomes, what's that thing Anthony Hopkins says on the show Westworld? When truth becomes legend, print the legend, right? It's like the truth of him is an idea, but then he's just a legend. And there's storytelling after that never stops. And here we are still today talking about it, right?
And how it made us feel, right? Like,
and how you, right.
We all remember those moments in sports, whether it was Montana to Clark or it goes through Buckner's legs, the Mets win it. I mean, they give you the chills. Jack Buck and Joe Buck, we'll see you tomorrow night after Kirby Puckett's home run in Game 6.
Right.
Pretty awesome stuff. Sport. We love sports.
No, we love, listen, Steph, it's like Steph Curry. I don't know personally. Didn't you just finish off? And then he does this magic in the Olympics. I'm like, is this guy kidding me?
It's stuff that makes you smile.
So he just set another bar for the thing. So and the storytelling that comes out of it. And that's why sports is awesome. It brings us together. We stop all of our nonsense. And by the way, that's a marketable, scalable, revenue-generating idea around sports and its power.
All right, it is time for the lightning round. We're going to go through this quick.
All right.
Keep it tight, Keith. Just whatever jumps to your mind. All right. What's the best deal you've ever made?
I'll just go most recent. Putting the Globetrotters back on TV for the first time in 40 years. It happened fast, and it's been magical in terms of not only what it's done straight to the audience, but also to the business community.
What's the best piece of advice you've received on deal making or business?
I had a meeting with the Maras at the Giants. He's like, we like to do deals with like-minded partners where you just stick the deal memo in the drawer after a while and you don't have to look at it again. So it was about the alignment to the types of people that you do work with.
What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
You know, never burn a bridge is an interesting piece of advice because I struggled with that for years. It's like, wait, there becomes a time where it's like, listen, you need to maintain relationships, but then there's your own sense of self, your own integrity, your own person, your own value system. And, you know, it might be like, you know, one of you guys may be like, he's not my dude. No, I'm going to distance myself from him. Is that burning a bridge? I don't know. We have our moral compass. We have our values. And so I think there's times like, if you're not aligned to being loving and treating people right and blah, 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 I don't have any time for you. So that's always been a tricky one about not burning bridges.
I can relate. What's your hype song before you go into a big meeting or negotiations?
Lately, it's been a lot of, you know, Jay-Z's Allow Me to Reintroduce Myself. My name is Ho.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that's usually it.
That's kind of perfect for the Globetrotters, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So that's the one I played all the time, both for me and the Globetrotters. The other one that we don't play as much, but, you know, it's LL's Don't Call It a Comeback. I've been here for years. They both go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really good. All right. So what's your advice for someone listening who wants a career like yours, which I have to say is a very cool career?
So I was asked this question a couple of times recently, and Herm Edwards' coach was like, you know, it's not your skill, it's your will. That one just sticks with me for a few reasons. You know, one, I was having this conversation about my grandmother, who's not with us anymore, but I'm like, how does this black woman born in 1918, 1919 in the segregated Jim Crow South, and all of that means, navigate from there, gets up to Ridgewood, New Jersey. She's a restaurant owner. She was like a pillar of the community. She started 2 scholarships organization. And listen, she was a bright bulb, but her will and her spirit, there's nothing like it, right? So just being around that awesome force all the time, for me, it's like, I think this thing is about your will, right? And then when I look at athletes who I just admired over the years, as much as I love Ali, my favorite thing is seeing him get knocked down by Joe Frazier, because it was like Arthur McCann, he was like, pointed Joe to the neutral corner, looked back to the floor to count, and Ali was up. I'm like, that's your will, right? So I just think, you know, part of it is like, be intellectually curious, say, why not me? Dream big, all of those things, right? And get after it with humility and please and thank you and show up and work hard every day. But your will is going to be tested. And so find ways to have stamina. And I think they need to, who do you surround yourself with then, right? Who just kind of fuels it and doesn't detract it from you. So that's my family, that's different friends, that's working out, that's good people in my life. But you have to find a way to build up your reservoir. And I think this will thing, it takes you far in life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have loved getting to know you a little bit, Keith. Can't wait for our paths to cross again. Thank you so much for the time. Congrats on the residency. I think I speak for Alex when I say, as lifelong fans, we're psyched this is back.
Appreciate the time. Can't wait to have you guys out of games and figure out ways to work with each other in the future.
That'd be awesome. God bless, Keith. Keep it up, my man.
Thank you.
The Deal is hosted by Alex Rodriguez and me, Jason Kelly. This episode was made by Stacey Wong, Anna Mazarakis, Lizzie Phillip, and Victor Iveas. Our theme music was made by Blake Maples. Our executive producers are Kelly LaFerriere, Ashley Honig, and Brendan Newnham. Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. Additional support from Rachel Scaramazino and Elena Sausangelis. Thanks for listening to The Deal. If you have a minute, please subscribe, rate, and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. And remember, if you're a Bloomberg subscriber, you can listen to all of our episodes absolutely ad-free on Apple Podcasts. All you need to do is find the Bloomberg channel and connect your Bloomberg account. I'm Jason Kelly. See you next week.